Tubeppa's Nenbeast is going to kill somebody. Hello and welcome back to Suck War Central. My name is CJ, and as this 11th hour of the Succession War creeps upon us, we still have a handful of Guardian Spirit Beasts whose abilities we don't quite understand. So I'm going to take a crack at using every last clue Togashi has given us to decipher what these last few Bloodborne bosses could be hiding up their sleeves. Let's start with Benjamin's Beast. In my review of Chapter 413, I speculated that Benjamin would somehow come to inhabit this Nenbeast when his body dies, after which he would become a guardian deity of the Kakin Empire and attach, in Nenbeast form, to each subsequent king. Well, recently I've become aware of a minor detail that strongly supports this theory. Most of the time, in Japanese, the relationship between princes and their guardian spirit beasts is described with the character no, which is the standard possessive and indicates that the princes own their respective Nenbeasts. However, it's different with Benjamin's Beast, where the word tsuku is used instead, which means to attach to, possess, or haunt. This tells us that Benjamin's guardian spirit beast is something greater than just a tool for Benjamin himself to use or a gift he was given by the Seed Urn. It implies that the ownership situation with this Nenbeast in particular is different to all the others, and it could, under the right conditions, haunt somebody else in the way it is currently possessing Benjamin. I think this shows that this Nenbeast is meant to change hands and find new hosts to attach to. Since Benjamin and Furikov's plan relies on killing Benjamin's body, but using his Nenbeast to secure an eternal Huiguo Road dynasty, I am dead set on the theory that this Nenbeast will contain Benjamin's consciousness and inherited Nen abilities and accumulate power over the years while attaching to whoever rules Kakin and allowing Benjamin to possess their body. If this succeeds, it more or less has the potential to make Benjamin completely undefeatable. After all, a ruler can be deposed, but whoever goes on to take over will just be possessed by Benjamin. If it attaches to whoever is in charge of the country at any time, it becomes impossible to get rid of, and with how many Nen abilities it will have stockpiled over the years, turbocharged by post-mortem Nen, good luck ever destroying this thing. Now you might argue this doesn't quite fit, because this Nenbeast was seen exorcising spirits attached to 11th Prince Fugetsu, so that has to figure into it somehow. Well, it's my personal belief that this wasn't an actual Nen ability, but instead a basic attack. In the same way, Shikaku is worried that Haukenberg's beast will maul him like a pit bull if he ever tries to deal with it, even though me when I fucking get you isn't its actual ability. I believe this spirit exorcism was just some burst of aura from the beast that people went on to read way too much into, because that's what we do when Hunter x Hunter is this complicated and we have major hiatuses between chapter batches. I mean, that's my job, guys. That's my job. It was just a big scary roar from the alpha ghosty that scared all the small fry away, and we all read way too much into it, as we do, but I wouldn't change a thing because I love the Hunter x Hunter fan base for that. Anyway, let's move on. Camilla's Nenbeast is another one I think people are overcomplicating. See, it's likely that this Nenbeast is responsible for emitting these strange little jellyfish creatures that swarmed the black whale on day one of the contest. What we know about it is that it's a coercive type manipulator that controls people when they meet its conditions. This wording sort of implies a bunch of complicated things have to happen in order for it to control anybody, but I personally don't think so. You see, it's the same wording that gets used when Shalnark tries to take control of Pell. He says, "My ability didn't activate even though the conditions were met." So the most simple manipulation ability you could imagine, which just requires needling someone, still gets the same conditions verbiage that might make you overthink the whole thing if you didn't know Shalnark's deal. In other words, Camilla's Nenbeast could have a similarly simple ability, and probably does because she's a very simple woman. I'd be willing to bet these conditions are as simple as 1. The target is an enemy of Camilla, and 2. A jellyfish stings them or attaches to them somehow. Nothing more, nothing less, let's move on. Zhang's Nenbeast is where things get complicated. First of all, it takes the form of a Dharma Chakra, a symbol used by many different religions, which can honestly mean all sorts of things depending on which religion or sect is using it. Does it symbolize the wisdom of the ideal ruler? A revolutionary force of change? Religious transformation? All of the above? None of the above? The thing about Zhang is he's a very multifaceted individual who describes how command over both the light and the darkness is essential to being a good ruler. Furthermore, we have been told by the narrator that his guardian spirit beast has multiple abilities activated by multiple conditions. I wouldn't be surprised, then, if this guardian spirit beast's abilities are, in fact, related to different meanings of the Dharma Chakra symbol based on who the target is, or more specifically, how they personally view the prince and what he represents to them. We're also told that a person who fulfills its conditions will be granted Nen abilities. I'm almost positive that the condition is redeeming coins by placing them inside the beast's mouth, as many people have theorized. Kurapika additionally speculates that redeeming a coin may benefit the person who redeems it, but impact them with pseudo-coercive manipulation in exchange. It's effectively, you do something for me, I do something for you, which has been the modus operandi of Zhang from day one, evident particularly from his guard's dealings with Kurapika. Their whole relationship is, of course, transactional, and thus so is the Guardian Spirit Beast's ability. And naturally, when speculating on the coins, Kurapika points out that a common application of conjured objects is whatever their normal function is, but taken to a supernatural level. The way Shizuku's vacuum is crazy good at cleaning things, Kurapika's chains are crazy good at binding people, and Owl's Fun cloth is magically good at concealing and disappearing and containing things, I posit that the most likely use of the conjured money is to facilitate transactions that couldn't be done any other way. Zhang is all about pressuring people into making deals that benefit him, seen once again in the conduct of his guard Sakata, who took exactly this approach when dealing with both Kurapika and the guards of 9th Prince Halkenberg. Thus, I imagine the idea is this: when Zhang enemies are in a pinch, if they have one or more coins, they can redeem them and be granted a temporary Nen ability that somehow solves what their problem is. In exchange, however, they have to do something for Zhang, enforced with manipulation. Meanwhile, Zhang's devotees are rewarded for their loyalty with even more powerful abilities they can use to serve him. Next up is 4th Prince Terror Sandwich. Technically, only this horse thing is his guardian spirit beast, but I'm gonna speculate on this other fella too while I still can, because I have a feeling the truth behind it will be revealed soon, and I want to shoot my shot with it. So, as far as we know, this horse lady subjects people, probably just women, to a 3 strikes you're out system of lie detection before they quote-unquote cease to be human. Salkov interprets this to mean that Theta will be somehow turned into a useful pawn for the prince if she gets a 3rd mark, but I actually kinda doubt this. In my opinion, Terror Sandwich's psychology has, until now, been woefully underanalyzed by the fandom, and I'm gonna use that as a jumping off point to get into why I don't think the Guardian Spirit Beast makes pawns or tools for him. See, every Guardian Spirit Beast is in some way a reflection of their prince's psyche, and often in ways that are detrimental. Salasala's laziness manifested in a defenseless, idle Nenbeast. Kacha's selflessness meant her Nenbeast couldn't be useful unless she sacrificed herself, and Zhang's preoccupation with long-term planning means that his Nenbeast won't be at the peak of its power until long after the Succession War. In the same way, I'm expecting Terror Sandwich's Nenbeast to reflect his own crippling arrogance. See, this guy is insanely, painfully myopic. His faith in himself and his genius, his talent, is so overwhelming that he doesn't even consider employing the talents of anyone else. I mean, he's learned about Nen and all, he's thinking critically about the Nen abilities possessed by his adversaries, but when it comes to his side, he's only thinking about himself. He's learned that he has 2 guards in his ranks who can use Nen abilities, as well as a Guardian Spirit Beast granted to him by the Seed Urn ceremony that he can't even see. And yet, he has not once asked about what the Nen abilities of his guards are or how best to use them. He also hasn't tried to acquire any information about his own Nenbeast or its ability. It's a tool given to help him win, so really he should be asking about its behavior, appearance, anything to help speculate. But no, all he cares about is the Nen he can use, about developing his own talents. I think he's gotten away with this mentality in life so far because he is overwhelmingly talented, but this incredible focus is just as much his weakness as his strength. He wants to be a one-man army, but a major theme of this arc is how group Nen abilities, cooperation, and Nen abilities working in sync can be overwhelming forces that topple individual combatants. Terror Sandwich has a talent for Nen, but he's inexperienced. We're watching him at the start of the Dunning-Kruger curve, and he's at the peak of Mount Stupid. All this to say, I believe Terror Sandwich's Nenbeast will probably not provide him with pawns or ammunition to win the Succession War, because those are not exactly things he wants. He wants to achieve everything with his own talents and his own hands, so he can proclaim himself the mastermind, superior to all, beholden to none. To admit he needs anyone's help would crush his monstrous ego, and that's why I don't think his Nenbeast will actually be that directly helpful to him when it activates. Instead, I think once it hits a third strike, all it will do is turn its target into some kind of twisted art piece exactly suited to the prince's taste. However, much more genuinely useful to Terra Sandwich is this big penis-headed fellow that, for reasons you will soon come to understand, I am going to call the security camera. It's something the prince materialized on his own, and is theorized by both Salkov and Theta to be connected to his specialist ability. Additionally, according to Salkov, it is stockpiling aura, and Salkov further believes this aura is used as a sort of battery when Terra Sandwich is in Zetsu. After all, Nen abilities have a cost that needs to be paid, and if he's in Zetsu, that aura has to come from somewhere. In other words, this leads us to believe that the aura contained in the security camera is used to power the ability we know as Parallel Future. So, with that in mind, do we have any actual evidence linking this Nenbeast to that ability? Well, we have what I believe to be a strong piece of evidence and a weak one. The weak point is the timing. After practicing Zetsu for several days, it was the exact day after the security camera beast appeared that Parallel Future first activated. The timing seems very suspicious, but I consider this weak evidence for a few reasons. For starters, the camera beast did seem to be fully formed and in working order the previous day after slowly manifesting over the course of the morning. So why exactly didn't Terra Sandwich manifest his Nen ability until the following evening? And secondly, his development when it comes to Nen is so rapid that these small gaps in timing are a lot more impactful for him. If he were less talented, then they could have manifested several days, weeks, months, or even years apart. In any case, what really convinces me that this Nenbeast is linked to the 4th Prince's Hatsu is the perspective on all these panels. That's the strong point of evidence. See, as Terra Sandwich thinks through what's going on, the scene is displayed from several different angles, but his visions of the future are always from roughly above and behind him, usually to the right. I think this is a very odd and coincidental choice. Why the rough consistency with this angle when it comes to this subject? And you could argue that it's to help Togashi by letting him reuse art, but I don't think so. You can tell by looking at how the prince is drawn and the subtle differences in angle across panels, Togashi is redrawing him every time, and even the background, which is a simple checkered floor, doesn't seem to be reused. In other words, this doesn't serve any meta purpose, leading me to conclude that it was important to the story Togashi wants to tell. It's almost as if these images are taken from the perspective of a monstrously tall creature looking down on the prince from behind, that occasionally rearranges its position ever so slightly. Yep, that's why I've called his second Nenbeast the security camera. Based on panels like this, I do believe that when he looks into the future, Terra Sandwich sees it from this creature's perspective. This has terrifying implications. It means that if Terra Sandwich were to manage to gain control of his Nenbeast, as we must assume he would once he grows and develops as a Nen user, he can use it to control his future sight perspective. He could look into the future, not just in his immediate surroundings, but wherever he sends this thing. And for all we know, once he's aware of it, he could choose to create more than one with his rapidly growing supply of aura. Thanks to his seemingly limitless potential when it comes to Nen, for all we know, it's only a matter of time before he creates a legion of these things to surveil every corner of his kingdom before the events even come to pass, and living up to his desire to be a one-man army who needs no one else. If he did something like that, I have to admit it'd be pretty cool, and he might even earn my respect enough for me to start calling him Tserriednich. But next up is Tubeppa, and I believe this Nenbeast is hiding a sinister side to it, just like Tubeppa herself. On the surface, it seems relatively harmless. It's some sort of frog on wheels with no limbs, and it's skittish and shy, and only appears when Tubeppa has found a research partner. However, the last 10 or so chapters have really changed my view of this woman, and by extension, my speculation on her Nenbeast. For instance, she seeks collaboration, but the Kakinese royal mentality is strong in her as the 5th eldest prince. In her arrogance and unwavering belief that she will be king, she sees other people as resources to be used and spent as opposed to equal partners, and forms an alliance with Zhang as an effort to get him targeted by Benjamin. Also, I want to point out that in chapter 414, Oito always includes her in one of the upper 5 princes, you know, the really problematic ones. Given that, I wouldn't envy being her partner in an alliance. And what's more, Tubeppa seems to be a scientist of sorts. The very first image we have of her is her working in some sort of scientific laboratory, handling a dangerous substance with gloves. Now this is the Kakin Empire we're talking about, so I have zero doubt in my mind that Tubeppa's worked on some nasty stuff. For all we know, she was part of the R&D team that created the TSK-17, or one of the many other bioweapons that Balsamico alludes to the existence of. Like seriously, after seeing the damage this stuff can cause, you should be viewing any scientist affiliated with a Kakinese government very skeptically and preferably through a pair of safety goggles and full PPE. So, Tubeppa's treacherous to her so-called allies and gleefully signs treaties with people she plans to backstab after trying to secure an alliance against them, mind you. And what's more, her Nenbeast takes the form of a toad. What are toads known for?
I'm Mr. Frog. This is my show. I eat the bug.
So yeah, Tubeppa's Nenbeast requires a research partner to make its substances. But what I posit is this. When said research partner approaches the beast, it will open its mouth and yoink them in with its tongue, like frogs and toads do, before digesting them into that variety of substances. Perhaps the more aura the target has, the more powerful the substance is produced. It would fit with the Kakinese mentality of reducing human beings to abstract resources, sacrifices, points, ammunition, curses, manpower, and it's an issue that is especially relevant to the field of science. It's quite common in authoritarian regimes for human subjects viewed as less than to be used for unethical scientific experiments. I mean, look me in the eyes and tell me you think there's zero chance Tubeppa was getting her Tuskegee syphilis on. Humans are almost always the most tempting subjects for any scientist, and as a royal, she'd have access to the best resources the kingdom has to offer her. She's the 5th prince, a grown woman. She's been steeped in that Kakinese ideology for long enough to be fully indoctrinated. She's unwilling to accept anyone but herself as king, and you just know the Kakinese government is up to some crazy Unit 731 shit. To Tubeppa, even so-called allies are just a resource, whose existence is worth nothing beyond what they can be used for. Plus, it has plenty of parallels to how Kakin always says one thing and means another. It's like how Kakin was allegedly democratized, yet the parliament aren't equal partners with the royals at all and are just a tool to placate the people. It's like how Nasabi drafted articles to give the people and royals similar rights, yet his legislation still defines those two as separate categories. It's like how the succession contest is an internal political struggle in which the princes are subject to the law, yet the contest is designed for them to break said law and get away with it. Tubeppa's so-called research partner being fuel would just be another example of this double-faced society, and additionally would mean that whatever her Nenbeast produces is juiced up by the sacrificial power of post-mortem aura. This would likely be an incredibly powerful ability and could be the last-minute clutch that saves her from being killed by Benjamin's martial law, but only time will tell. Tyson's Beast I have already done a video on, but it's not a very good video and not a lot of you watched it, nor should you, so I'm going to give you a short and sweet version of that theory now. Let's start with the concrete facts of what we know about Tyson and her beast. The 6th prince's own mother views her as an embarrassment and a disappointment, and her father's off doing whatever Nasabi does all day, leaving Tyson deprived of respect and affection. Thus, Tyson feels very little love in her life and has become obsessed with the concept. She's poured her heart into the Tyson canon, her gospel of love that's so important to her, she agreed to join the succession war on the condition that her mother try and get King Nasabi to read it. Appropriately, her guardian spirit beast and its mechanics are also directly linked to this book. It's a diffusive levy-type emitter. That means it collects something from a large group of people, by force if the alternate translation of mass conscription type is anything to go by. Anyone who receives the book gets one of these eyewogs attached to them. Reading the book triggers the ability and bestows happiness upon the subject in proportion to how much they've read. However, it also collects aura from the target for an unknown purpose. And last but not least, if the target breaks the one and only taboo of this book, presumably violence or murder, they will be punished harshly. So let's examine this ugly fucking thing. The Nenbeast is focused on love and happiness, just like Tyson, and is designed to give her what she feels she's missing in life, those being the love and respect of others. But it also reflects Tyson's stunted, immature concept of love. To Tyson, love means that people will pay attention to her, which is represented by reading her book, do what she says, which is why they're punished if they don't follow her rules, and enjoy doing so, which is why the beast makes her targets feel happy. I want you to keep in mind, though, that the price for this is the target's aura. The beast extracts a tithe by literally sucking the life energy out of Tyson's followers. So on the surface, it seems like another basic mind control beast a la Camilla or Sale, but I don't think something so simple fits Tyson, because she's just not the kind of heartless, selfish person to use others as cannon fodder or slaves without a second thought. She drinks her own Kool-Aid, you see. Tyson's beast bestows people with happiness as opposed to controlling them or even directly affecting their opinion of her. She genuinely cares about the people around her, and more importantly, she wants them to love her by choice, not by coercion. If you don't want to get brainwashed by Tyson's Nenbeast, all you have to do is just not read her book. Or in other words, not give her attention. So with that in mind, I think we can start to theorize about what exactly her Nenbeast is stockpiling aura to do. Izunavi and Giuliano speculate that it's something akin to a spirit bomb from Dragon Ball, and I think this was Togashi giving us a clue. Spirit no, bomb yes. Tyson means it when she says, "My only weapons are love and devotion." Ergo, I think when Tyson is threatened, her Nenbeast will spend some of that accrued aura to blast the attacker with some sort of happiness bomb. One might even call it a love bomb that overwhelms the target with positive feelings to such an intense degree that they're instantly converted to her religion. This is definitely a weapon, but she wouldn't see it as a weapon the same way religious fanatics see forcibly converting others not as brainwashing them, but as saving them. This would be fitting because love bombing is how many cults recruit members, and yes, love bombing is the appropriate term in both English and Japanese. So yeah, that's my main theory, but there's one last bit to cover: the punishment for disobeying Tyson's teachings. If I had to guess, it's something that still doesn't count as an attack by Tyson's metrics. I would expect it to be something like a metaphorical excommunication, in which the person is ostracized from the group, and the flow of happiness from Tyson's Nenbeast is cut off. Now for Luzerus's beast. I don't really have a lot to say about this one. We know the basics. It conjures a trap for a target by showing them what they want to see, and manipulates them when they take the bait. I feel that's pretty self-explanatory and doesn't leave much room for theorizing, but I will take this opportunity to clear a few things up. Hacho Beast has convinced Melody and Kaiser that Luzerus's beast is responsible for the curse on Fugetsu, which seems to give us some more clues about how it functions, but this is dead wrong. We know that princes' beasts can't target other princes, and right back to square one we go. I guess I could talk about how it represents Luzerus's personality. He seems laid back, overly calm, and like an easy target, but is in actuality a shrewd individual in command of a whole mafia family. However, there is one crackpot theory I just feel like I have to mention because I really like it. What if it doesn't just represent Luzerus's dopey facade as a weed-smoking bum, but is actually responsible for it? I mean, look at how Togashi drew the guy on his tweet announcing Chapter 420's dialogue has been inserted. He looks like a stone-cold killer, and not one other panel in the series has him looking like this. What if this is the real Luzerus, and the happy-go-lucky idiot stoner is just a facade created by the beast to entice targets? If that's the case, I imagine Congetal's going to find out firsthand sooner rather than later what this Nenbeast does, or maybe all this discussion is moot because Luzerus is possessed by Halkenberg, who knows? And last but not least, I want to discuss 13th Prince Marayam's Nenbeast. We have a pretty good idea as to how this one functions, but something about it bothers me. See, I think it's just too overpowered, and must have some weakness we have yet to ascertain. As the saying goes, no form of Nen is invincible. You could beat Marayam's Nenbeast with Rihan or Furikov's abilities, but I hardly think being weak to Hatsu designed to counter other abilities really counts as a legitimate weakness. There has to be some way to breach Marayam's secluded pocket dimension, and I believe it lies in the fake room it's created. See, Marayam is a scared child, terrified by the death of his sister Momose, and the poor lad craves safety above all else. The Nenbeast in his fake room is incredibly hostile, and becomes considerably more so when Hanzo's doppelganger approaches, as if it's protecting something. In my opinion, this means that the Nenbeast itself conceals that vulnerability. One possibility is that the Nenbeast itself is the weakness, and must be destroyed to disable the ability. But Nen abilities tend to be somewhat balanced by their conditions, and I don't think destroying a monstrously powerful Nenbeast that would require some seriously heavy-duty Hatsu firepower to erase can be considered a reasonable condition. More likely, I believe, somewhere in this fake room is a physical entrance to the actual room 1013, or perhaps a switch that disables the ability, which can be triggered or accessed without actually destroying the Nenbeast itself. That is what Marayam's beast is guarding, and that is the quote-unquote correct way to overcome this Nen ability. With all that being said, this has been my attempt to figure out every Nenbeast, which remains something of a mystery to us, because I really do feel like this might be my last chance to do so. I can't wait to see how many I got right. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're as excited as I am for the next chapter, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Oh my fucking god, I can't believe Gon and Killua are back.